For this month's PopCross Community Redraw, I asked my subscribers to send in their own original dragons and dragon tamers. In this episode, I'm going to be showing off the stuff that was submitted, and taking 4 of the submission sets, and combining elements of both the dragons and their tamers, and turning them into superheroes. I'm also going to be telling an original story about those superheroes facing off against a demon invasion that has come to their world. Wonder what the cause of that could have been. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's go!
Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
Honestly, if you told me a week ago that the Draco Guard was gonna have a change in captains, I probably wouldn't have believed it, let alone believed, you know, what actually did end up happening. Or you know what, actually, maybe I would have. Thinking back, I kinda always knew that something was a little bit off about Sam's leadership, but it really became obvious after Demon Day. Which I still think sounds more like a weird holiday than it does a day when demon monsters started invading our planet. I guess I should back up a little bit. About a month ago, demons that kind of looked like 4 armed business people with big toothy heads started just showing up in major cities around the world and attacking people at random, with the first wave showing up right here in Terragopolis. They just kinda killed whoever for a few days, and of course heroes like me, but you know, not as Eowyn, but as my superhero named Foldrake, and my team, the Draco Guard, did all we could to take them out. Then, weirdly, a few days in, they just kinda seemed to disappear. Thing is, what was really happening is they were taking on the appearances of people that they'd killed, even taking on their memories and stuff so they could just act like the people they'd killed, and then surprise, pop out anywhere and just take out a whole office or sports team or whatever group they were hiding in. Worse still, every now and then another swarm of them would just appear and go on another rampage, then disappear again, hiding out as more random citizens, waiting to strike. So, now everybody is suspicious of everybody, and, well, everybody is freaking out. Including our noble Captain Sam, or better known to the public as Kinetigon, the wielder of the kinetic power of the dragon Terragopor. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Sam is a great guy, and he's been our leader for 3 years now, the full time that we've been working as this generation of the Draco Guard, harnessing the powers of the ancient dragons to save the good folks of Terragopolis. But as mighty of a guy as he doesn't always handle high-pressure situations super well. Of course, even with all this craziness happening, I've honestly been having fun fighting off the demons and protecting people. Don't get me wrong, I'm not happy it's happening or anything, lots of people are dying, but, you know, this is what I signed up for, to save lives, and I'm gonna enjoy doing it. Unfortunately, Sam was super anxious as the attacks kept coming, and we had no idea where they might pop up next, and he was kinda getting mad at how chill I was being about the whole thing, to a point where I was starting to think he might be right. Maybe I did need to take things more seriously. First time he said anything about it was 2 weeks into the attacks. We got word that 6 demons had been hiding out on the trading floor of the Terragopolis Bank and had started attacking people. The Draco Guard Tower is pretty close to there, so the 4 of us were crashing through their windows to fight back within something like 2 minutes of the attack starting. I quickly used my foliage powers, courtesy of channeling the energy of the great dragon of the forests, Haku, to send vines shooting across the floor and over office desks and chairs to wrap up 2 of the demons. But it clearly wasn't going to hold them for that long. Plus, as soon as the other demons saw this, they shifted back into their human forms and ran into the crowd of people that were all scrambling for the exits. You'd think since we saw some of them transform, they'd be easy to find again, but everybody in there was wearing suits, and I don't know, to me suits all pretty much look the same except with different colored ties. Luckily, Baishui, or on the job she goes by Aquapent, had been floating closer to the ceiling and had managed to keep an eye on one of the transformed demons. She channeled the powers of the water dragon Shudi to create a wave that swept into the crowd, scooped up all of the innocent people around the demon, and pushed them away from it, leaving it exposed. Then our youngest and smallest member, who is surprisingly the tank of our group, Sophia, or Brawlbora, transformed both her arms into feathery, bulky limbs like that of the ancient dragon of might, Heavyhorn. She leapt over to the demon, grabbed it, and tore it to pieces. Our noble leader, or at least at the time, Kinetigon, had flown over to the 2-eyed wrapped up as they were about to break free, and he let them land a few hits on him to build up some kinetic energy. As they hit him, blue flames started swirling around him, and when he was charged up enough, he hammered his fist into one of their heads, sending its noggin right off its shoulders. So yeah, it was kinda looking pretty good at first. until the crowd started freaking out again. One of the hidden demons had transformed back and stuck its claws straight through the backs of 4 different people. Blood splattered over everybody nearby. I looked to Kinetigon for orders, but he just barreled into the crowd in a panic, even tackling through some of the screaming people, and tried to just grab the demon, but he hadn't built up enough kinetic energy again to be stronger than it, so it managed to pull away from him. In the meantime, the other demon that I'd wrapped up, that I thought he was going to take care of, broke free and started getting away. Instinctively, I just went after that one. It had leapt out the window and was sliding down the side of the building towards the ground. I leapt out after it, latching some vines to a bunch of desks inside, so I could run down the side of the building like I was in Mission Impossible or something. It was sick. I made one of my signature thorn bombs, this pink smoky energy stuff I can build up in my hands, then hurled it down at the demon. I hit the window right next to it and huge thorns instantly grew out from the place of impact. They didn't impale the thing like I wanted, but they knocked it off the wall and it fell another 7 stories to smash right into the street below. I was close enough to handle a fall from the height I was at, so I let go of my vines, leapt off the wall, and shot 2 more vines down towards the demon, barely giving it time to get up. My vines wrapped around it and I yanked hard. It flew up towards me as I shot down towards it, with more thorn bomb energy building up on my foot. I kicked right into its chest and thorns burst through its entire body. It exploded into a cloud of ashes that I fell through to land in a perfect superhero landing on the street below. I leapt up and cheered because I knew that it looked cool, and there was a camera crew watching. I looked over and gave them a wink. But then realized that nobody could have seen that because of my goggle, but hey, everyone watching still knew that I'd been sick. Of course, Kinetigon didn't really think so when he saw the footage later that night on TV. I'd gone back inside after my little show to see that things had gotten worse. More people had been killed. The team managed to find and finish off 2 of the demons, but one got away in the scramble and we never found it. Plus, one of the demons had managed to get close to Brawlbora while it was in disguise and slashed a nice big gash with its claw into her back. She heals fast because of Heavyhorn's powers, but still. We regrouped and got back to the Draco Tower, which doesn't completely belong to us, by the way. We don't own the whole thing. But for a few generations now, anyone chosen to take on the power of the ancient dragons has lived and operated out of the penthouse, which is a pretty sick looking base, by the way. The main room has a massive glass dome instead of a ceiling, and in case we get attacked, this red energy shield activates to protect us. The main room has tons of fancy computers to help us keep watch over the city, although we've been having trouble using some of it lately since we had to let go of our tech support, Zales. Anyway, Kinetigon was pretty torn up about all the people that had died and how a demon had gotten away, and really just the whole crazy situation our world was in. Aquapent and Brawlbora seemed like they were taking on some of his same vibe too. I tried to cheer them all up, but Kinetigon really wasn't having that, and it just got worse when he saw the little show I'd put on the news. He got pretty mad that on TV for everyone to see I was showboating while people were dying. And yeah, I guess fair enough, and I didn't say it at the time, but it seemed like at least my chill attitude meant I wasn't making rash mistakes, like tackling through civilians. But I figured he was the leader and what he said went, so I agreed to try and act more serious. Of course, I would soon enough get some backup for my attitude. See, a few days later, we got word of another attack, this one happening at Sky Wyvern Park. A crowd had gathered for a local theater's performance of the show The Reluctant Dragon, and 4 demons had been hiding in the crowd and started attacking people. Then another 20 had run in too. It was the biggest attack we'd seen in the city since Demon Day. But by the time we arrived on the scene, another team of 5 heroes that I'd never heard of were already taking care of things. Their leader was this girl with rocks on her fists and these weird colored rings spinning around her head. Later, we learned her name was Alexis. She looked pretty serious, but also like she was kinda enjoying herself. She'd gotten one of her teammates, this guy Benny in a green mech armor, to fly above the crowd and shoot bright paint splotches onto any of the demons when he spotted them so that even if they transformed back, we could find them. There was also this girl Kayla with a talking metal arm riding a giant red cyclops snake, helping people onto the creature to get them away from the demons, as another of their team, Tayrin, seemed to be controlling the snake from a distance. Then there was this guy with grey, rocky skin and a super angsty goth high schooler sort of coat named Dresden, who was shooting off chunks of his arms to grab demons, pull them back to him, and hold them in place for the rocky girl to smash him. Funny enough, Dresden was actually the name of our tech guy who we had to let go, but we always just called him by the nickname Zales, which we got from his last name, Gonzalez. Anyway, this new team was working like a well-oiled machine, and they were communicating perfectly, with every bit of new info being directed at the Rocky girl, who would then give super fast callouts for what her team should do. It was awesome. Of course, we got in there to help too, and it seemed like I wasn't the only one on our team who was impressed with her. Brawlbora took a liking to the Rocky girl pretty fast and asked her how she could help instead of waiting for orders from Kinetigon, and this gal adapted quick. All Alexis needed was to hear that Brawlbora was a brawler and called up to her mech buddy in the sky and told him to find the biggest cluster of demons for Brawlbora to take out. He called out that there was a set of 3 of them headed out of the park, but they were moving fast. Alexis then looked to me and just from noticing my outfit, she asked if I could control plants. When I said I could, she told me to slow down the demons that were escaping. I manipulated the trees near the fleeing ones and their branches swung down and knocked the demons back, giving Brawlbora plenty of time to get them and start ripping them apart. She seemed to be getting pretty into it, and when Alexis saw how fast she took the demons out, even though she herself was in the middle of keeping a demon from gutting some poor lady, she called out, "Great job," and instructed her mech buddy to direct Brawlbora to the next biggest cluster of demons. And there was no shortage of them soon. Another, I don't know, 30 demons appeared on the scene. They just started coming out of everywhere. It was like this new team being here was really drawing them out. I kinda wanted to go to Alexis for more orders, but knew that I should try to follow Kinetigon's lead. He was my friend and our actual leader, plus I kinda wanted to get back on his good side. I ran over to him as he was flying through a cluster of demons, scrambling to keep them away from civilians. Aquapent was looking to him for orders too, but when we asked, he just sounded super scared and annoyed and said, "I don't know, save people, do whatever you have to do." He was panicking and it was kinda rubbing off on me. I looked to Aquapent and she looked pretty anxious now too, despite her usual relaxed attitude. I wanted to say something to try and make her feel better, but turned out I didn't have to. Alexis suddenly leapt in between us. She looked down at Aquapent's feet, seeing that she was hovering off the ground, and asked if she could fly. She quickly nodded, and Alexis nodded back, asking if Aquapent could help knock demons out of the sky, pointing at a bunch that had grown wings and were giving their mech guy some trouble. Aquapent's anxiety seemed to pretty quickly lessen as she agreed and flew up into the air, creating a massive swirl of water around her body that she controlled and shot through the sky to smash demons away from Benny. A demon ran at Alexis and me, but without even having to look at it, she grabbed its head in her stony fist and held it off while asking me if I could keep the demons grounded. I nodded, with her confidence really feeling like it was firing me up. I started watching as Aquapent knocked demons from the sky and quickly sent vines through the ground to grab them and keep them down until someone else could finish them off. Soon, what had seemed like a chaotic situation was starting to feel totally manageable. And after half an hour, we'd been able to take out every single demon that had come for us, using some pretty solid teamwork instructed by Alexis. The only person that honestly hadn't really been much help was Kinetigon. This new team convened with us back at Draco Tower. They told us that they were from another dimension, and honestly, they glazed over that bit way too fast, but whatever. They said that a whole bunch of different dimensions were being invaded by demons, made by these things called the Archons. They said they were pretty sure that this one that had a TV for a head and 4 arms, named Psychoperdelict, had made the demons that were attacking our world. They also said that he might not even be here anymore, that these Archons could make demon generals, which were demons that could make other demons. If we found either Psychoperdelict or whatever demon general he might have made and killed them, the demons would stop coming. But better yet, Alexis had some weird, crazy power that she admitted she couldn't fully control yet, but it would mean that if she killed one of these demon leaders, then every demon created by them would die too, and we could maybe even save our whole world just like that. I got pretty excited hearing that, but Kinetigon said we shouldn't get our hopes up yet. We'd still have to find one of these things. The mech guy, Benny, said he'd figured out a way to track particularly powerful demon energy, so he asked if he could have at our computers. We told him to go for it, and that if he could teach us anything about how these computers worked, it would be appreciated, since Zalez used to handle all that stuff for us. I even mentioned that, in a way, it was a bit of a relief learning how these demons had showed up, because a small part of me had been worried that Zalez had been the cause. I told them how he was an absolute genius when it came to anything tech-based, but he was also totally obsessed with dragon powers. The only way to get them is to be chosen by the spirit of an ancient dragon like the rest of our team had been, but Zalez hadn't been picked. We thought it was enough for him to just be close to the team, working with us and helping us on the tech side, but it turned out it wasn't. He'd tried making himself his own mech-based powers, like a dragon wingsuit and stuff, but he'd always wanted real, proper dragon powers. One day we found him trying to use dark magic to summon the spirit of one of the necro dragons, and we told him that we couldn't let him do that. The only people that had ever managed to channel the abilities of the necro dragons had gone mad and become villains, and we told him that one of them would be sure to corrupt his mind. So if he was determined to keep trying, we couldn't really keep him around. He left the group, and a few days later, the demons had started popping up. Alexis told me not to worry, that technically anything was possible, but she highly doubted Zalez had anything to do with the Archon bringing an army here. That did make me feel a bit better. Everything Alexis said seemed to make me feel better, honestly. So in private later, I asked her how she was able to keep so cool under pressure. I mean, I feel like I was pretty good at it too, but Kinetigon almost made me feel like I shouldn't be. She said that as a leader, it was her job to stay cool under pressure. That a leader sets the tone for their whole team, and if a leader is freaking out, then odds are everybody else is going to as well. She said that in their off hours, she was open and honest with her team about the things she was nervous about or unsure about, and that she had plenty of personal doubts and issues, even right then with these new powers she'd gotten that she couldn't yet fully control. But when they were in the field, a leader's job is to be an example of the confidence that everyone else should be trying to embody. When I mentioned that I wasn't sure if I should be acting more serious in the field, she even said that you can take a situation seriously while still enjoying yourself. That was honestly exactly what I needed to hear. It was like she was saying everything that I'd felt, but thought that maybe I was wrong for thinking. It felt good, like validating, I guess. I thought for the next hour or so about talking to Kinetigon about what Alexis had said, but soon we'd have something more important to deal with. Benny had rigged up our computer with some demon tracking tech. It couldn't find single isolated demons, but if there was a super powerful one, it could find them, and right in the center of Terragopolis, it was showing that in the old Basilisk News Tower was a massive concentration of demon energy. We all readied up and headed off to take down some demons. From the readings Benny had gotten us, it seemed like almost every employee in the Basilisk News building had been replaced by a demon, but the biggest readings were coming from the very top floor. We didn't waste any time going through all the other floors and just flew straight for that. But the demons caught on to us before we even got close. A swarm of flying demons burst out of the windows and started circling the building, waiting for us to try and get close. The sky battle was risky, and I already wasn't thrilled about the flying situation. See, I'm the only one on the team who can't actually fly, and the tower is taller than every other building around it, so not much to shoot vines onto for swinging. Kinetigon was carrying me, and it was like I could feel his anxiety. He told me as we got close, if you see anything that looks remotely like a demon general or that psycho Perdelict guy, you wrap them up in every vine you can muster. If that thing gets away, it could mean tens of thousands of more deaths. I tried to act calm to help him relax and told him that we had this, but he didn't really seem to be listening. Alexis and her team shot straight into the fight. Kayla and Dresden were riding on a red wyvern called a Hellwing that Tayrin had summoned and was guiding from a nearby rooftop. The two riders and Benny flying around them were doing a great job taking out any demons that came near them with projectile attacks. Alexis was hovering in a swirl of purple smoke, though did kinda seem like she didn't have the hang of flying. She mentioned it was a new ability of hers that she still hadn't fully figured out. Still, she was easily pounding to ash any demon that got too close. Her team was getting closer and closer to the tower when a new player joined the game on the enemy's side. Exploding out of the roof of the building was a tar black, flaky-skinned human-dragon hybrid who spat a beam of purple flames from its mouth right at Alexis. She blocked it with her stone fists, but was still knocked way off balance and started to fall. The dragon demon then flew right at the Hellwing and tackled its head, sending it spinning out too. Kayla and Dresden both flew off it in different directions. I only waited a second for any orders from Kinetigon, but when none came, inspired by Alexis, I just confidently took charge. I called out to Aquapent to catch Kayla and Dresden in a water plume, and for Brawlbora to get Alexis airborne again. Then, I shot a vine to the Hellwing and ripped myself free from Kinetigon. I landed on the dragon's back and used my vines like reins to tug its head in the opposite direction that it was spinning, helping it to level back out. I yelled out, "We got this, Draco Guard! Let's show our new friends here what the heroes of Terragopolis can do!" Aquapent had done as asked and used her water to send both Dresden and Kayla right into the top floor of the building, possibly where the Demon General was waiting. Unless it was this new Demon Dragon guy. Brawlbora had caught Alexis, steadied her, and they were both flying back up towards me and the Hellwing. The Demon Dragon's mouth was swirling with flames again, so I called out to Kinetigon, "Can you take this hit?" He quickly flew in and let the flames hit him. They pushed him back, but barely, and soon the beam of purple shifted around his body, swirling into blue flames. I told him to show that demon what a real hit looked like, and surprisingly, Kinetigon listened. He flew right at the demon and punched him in the head with a blow that, I kid you not, I could feel the shockwave from. It was an epic hit. But it also knocked a ton of black flaky flesh off the dragon demon and revealed there was a human face underneath. One that we recognized. This wasn't the Demon General, it was Zales. I didn't want to believe it at first, but when he spoke, I could tell it was him, or at least it used to be. He said, "You guys wouldn't let me have any powers of my own, but Psycho Paradelict has given me all the power that I could ever want." His dragon face reformed again as he flew at me. I sent a bunch of vines swirling through the air to try and throw him off, but he just soared right through them and tackled me off of the Hellwing's back. He tried to throw me to the ground, but I wrapped a bunch of vines around him to hold on. I tried to tell him that he must be being manipulated by the demon, but he wasn't listening. He opened his mouth and tried to bite my head off, so I pushed off him and fell towards the ground. Before I even had to ask, Kinetigon had flown down to me and grabbed my arm. Surprisingly, he asked me, "What are your orders, Foldrake?" I was surprised that he was just cool with me taking charge, but quickly I called out, "Alexis, join your team inside and find the leader. We'll take care of the flying demons outside." Before I started talking, I hadn't even realized that I was going to give Alexis an order, but she agreed and went inside. Then I told Kinetigon to toss me back over to the Hellwing. I said that Aquapent and I would use our water and vines to distract and take out the rest of the sky demons, while Brawlbora and Kinetigon restrained Zales. Of course, Zales quickly called out that we'd never be able to beat him, and that his name was no longer Dresden Gonzalez, but to call him Dragonoid. And to be honest, I had a hard time not snickering at the name. I mean, he's a smart guy, but Dragonoid? Come on, it kind of sounds like a 10-year-old came up with it, right? I landed back on the Hellwing, and Aquapent and I started wrangling the sky demons. Anytime one got close to Brawlbora, Kinetigon, or Tayrin on the building he was guiding the Hellwing from, I'd wrap their wings up in vines, or Aquapent would knock them aside with a plume of water. Meanwhile, Brawlbora was circling Kinetigon and Dragonoid as they were duking it out in the sky. Problem was, Zales knew Kinetigon's powers well enough to know not to throw any fast-moving attacks that he could absorb the kinetic energy from, and instead was biting him and trying to dig his claws into Kinetigon's flesh. When I noticed that, I called out, "Brawlbora, charge Kinetigon up!" She flew down behind Kinetigon and started punching him in the back with a bunch of speedy blows. Zales clearly knew what was coming next, but by the time he started trying to back away from Kinetigon, our noble leader was basically a vortex of kinetically charged blue flames. He exploded forward, flying right above Zales, then pounded him downwards with a full force hit. Windows all around him shattered from the impact, and Zales fired straight down into the ground below, crashing a crater into the ground. I leapt off the Hellwing, latched a vine to the top of a building, and lowered myself down quick. When I got to the ground, I made tons and tons of vines burst up out of the pavement and wrapped them around Zales, who was clearly super dazed, but not even unconscious from a hit like that. I wrapped up his mouth too so he couldn't dole out any more purple flames, then assumed that I'd have to get back into the fight. But when I looked up, I saw that most of the demons were just starting to dissolve. Not all of them, but around 2/3 of them just vanished. It turned out Alexis and her team had found a demon general in the building, and Alexis had taken it out, which meant that every demon it had made was now dying off too. Unfortunately, Psychoperdelict was nowhere to be seen, meaning any demon that he'd made was still out there, and Zalez still had the powers that he'd been given by the Archon. But all in all, it was still an incredibly successful mission. After we finished off the rest of the demons in the Basilisk News building, Alexis and her team said they were off to keep looking for the Archons, but they gave us something called a Mujwawut, which is some sort of watch that'll let us stay in contact with them or even teleport to their home-based dimension if need be. We thanked them all for their help, and they were off. We got Zalez restrained in a Supermax prison, but hope that he won't have to be there for too long. He's not a bad guy at his core. Most surprising of all, though, when we regrouped at the tower after it was all done, Kinetigon called a meeting to say that he was stepping down as our leader. He said he'd overheard what Alexis had told me about leadership, and had seen how I was handling myself a lot better than he was under pressure. So, at least until we take out the rest of the demons in the city, I've officially become the new leader of the Draco Guard. It's not a role I thought I'd ever really want, but to be totally honest, I do feel pretty good about being able to set a good tone for my team to follow, as we keep doing our best to save the good people of Terragopolis.
And there we have the Dragons as Superheroes Community Redraw episode, which I will be doing a Design Notes podcast episode about, talking about the writing and design process for this episode over on the PopCross Studios Patreon, which again is now completely free for everybody, and you'll also be able to get access to the high-resolution art and the inks from this episode over there tomorrow. Just gotta go give that page a follow to get access to lots of bonus stuff from me. Huge thank you to all the awesome submissions that were sent in, and a specific thank you to the people who were chosen. Ely Gifford, Jay Draws, Lotus Moon 626, and Gaster Sans. And now for the December 2023 Community Redraw prompt, which was announced a day before this video was released on Patreon, so just another good reason to follow that page. Though you can't submit there, still the only way to submit is through email, popcrossanimations@gmail.com. But the prompt is that I want you to submit your own original fantasy monster that cannot be a dragon. Anything other than a dragon. Something that could fit into Tayrin's universe or into Dungeons & Dragons or something like that. I am going to be changing the characters into something, but it's a Multiverse Tales story revolving around a certain Multiverse Tales character, and I don't want to spoil exactly what I'm doing with it yet. Very excited to see what you all submit, but besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note, and the thought I want to leave you with is a quote from a man named Adewale Awasanya Jr. Nobody wakes up feeling great and ready to crush it every single day. The work is accepting how you feel and pushing through, even if it's only 65% effort. Motivation follows action. Be a master of showing up. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.